Let's see how it looks so far. Break time!
These days, with our attention spans rotting away, a lot of people use that last bit of mental energy on the things that don't matter in life. You know, the stock market, politics, or social media. But I want to ask, whatever happened to sitting outside and listening to some opinionated person ramble about topics that no sane person would ever waste mental energy on? Well, if you're like me and missed that long forgotten era, sit back or put this video on as background noise as I make the case for active procrastination. Okay, so with an intro like that, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. Am I encouraging everyone to be bums and procrastinate? Well yeah, but actually no. Now, procrastination is clearly something that a lot of people have an opinion about.
Let's tackle procrastination. If you want to stop procrastinating.
Are you struggling with procrastination?
Who in here struggles with procrastination?
But I feel like a lot of people try to tackle the issue of procrastination in the wrong way by shaming it or saying that it needs to be fixed, which really only seems to make you feel worse. After all, we all do it from time to time, and feeling bad about it or trying to fix it can just get you into that vicious procrastination cycle. You know, where you procrastinate, then you panic after you realize you procrastinated for too long, then you feel bad for yourself, which causes you to procrastinate again and avoid your problems. It's just a never-ending feedback loop. But, I hear you say as you move your cursor to another brain rot video, aren't you just yapping about semantics at this point? What even is your definition of procrastination if it isn't something to be shamed about? I think these are all fair points, and that's why we now need to talk about a workable definition. So let's start with what the dictionary has to say. As a baseline, the dictionary defines procrastination as the act of delaying or postponing something. And getting a second opinion, Britannica has a similar definition, though it emphasizes that the reason for the delay is laziness. And as I've pointed out, this definition seems a bit problematic to me because it can start that feedback loop thinking, so I'll just skip it. And just to cover all my bases, dictionary isn't the only authority when it comes to this sort of stuff, so let's see what the internet has to say about procrastination. Yeah, let's just try our dictionary. We'll just go here, and what is... I'm in this photo and I don't like it. Alright, tangents aside, and for the sake of my pride, let's stick with the first dictionary definition, the act of delaying or putting off tasks until the last minute or past their deadline. Even with this definition, my video is about making the case for active procrastination. And so I want to make a distinction between that and passive procrastination. So what's the difference? Well, I'm going to draw the line at intent. I'm going to say that active procrastination is essentially choosing to procrastinate because you think you can do the work more efficiently at another time. In fact, I'm actively procrastinating right now when I'm making this video. I think humans do have bouts of inspiration. We have a flow state where the words or whatever just come naturally. It's in that flow that the beauty of active procrastination comes into full effect. And I think science backs me up on this. Okay, in an effort to not bore you, I'm just going to quickly cover the info relevant to my argument. Essentially, a study from 2005 looked at active procrastinators compared to passive ones, and they basically used a similar definition as me, labeling people based on positive responses to things like working under pressure and being someone who intentionally puts off work to hack their motivation. And overall, they found active procrastinators had a lot better feelings related to their use of time, perceived control of time, self-efficacy, aka their ability to get their desired outcome, and coping with the task at hand. Looking at the raw data, which was on a 7-point scale, we can see the passive and active procrastinators had similar ratings for procrastination. Yet the purposive use of time of active procrastinators is more similar to non-procrastinators than passive ones. We also see that active procrastinators actually had higher feelings of self-efficacy and being able to cope with the task at hand than even the non-procrastinators. They also see similar and lower levels of stress, higher life satisfaction, and lower depressive feelings as the non-procrastinators. And checking the advanced stats for a minute, you can see there's a positive correlation of good feelings from the active procrastinators with those categories, whereas there were basically negative correlations or weaker ones for the academic procrastinators, aka the passive procrastinators. So in other words, the positive feelings were more likely to be reported for the active procrastinators compared to the passive ones. And if you don't believe me, or just need to win an argument with someone over the internet, there's a link in the description to this study that you can check out. Alright, that's enough of these charts, but there is one other thing I wanted to address before moving on. This study is based on people's self-perceptions, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hold weight. I'm sure you can think of countless examples where you actually were productive procrastinating something else. I know my apartment is cleanest when I need to study, for instance. And I think most people would agree that the better you feel about a task, the higher likelihood you'll do well at it. And just so we're clear, that chance for the feeling of self-efficacy is important. Self-efficacy is correlated with a higher motivation to learn, which drives one's ability to focus. And yeah, I know, correlation is not causation. I also paid attention to my high school stats class. But even if it's somehow not a causation, it still feels a heck of a lot better to feel in control of your time rather than stressing out about it, right? Also, just think about it. From a logical standpoint, there's certain breaks that you need to take when you're doing your work anyway. These breaks help bring mental clarity, allowing you to come back to a problem with a clearer mind and hopefully with new ideas. It could also be that during the break, you're planning ahead and making sure that you have all the preparations necessary to actually complete the task quickly, which actually saves you time in the long run. There's the old saying, measure twice, cut once, and I think that situation applies to life more often than not. And even if you're not working on something consciously, you're probably still thinking about the task at hand, which helps you in the long run through something called the Zeigarnik effect. Essentially, this effect suggests that people remember unfinished tasks better than completed tasks. If you've ever started learning something that you just couldn't remember, took a break, and then found yourself suddenly being able to remember it better later on, then you've probably experienced the Zeigarnik effect. And this effect is also what those trainings you do for jobs take advantage of. They gamify the system with progress bars to ensure that you remember that you're not done and will come back to it later. Another reason to try active procrastination is that you could also just be an adrenaline junkie. Some people thrive off the rush of finishing something last minute and the adrenaline and endorphins that come with last minute buzzer beaters. From a psychological standpoint, this also makes sense. Arousal theory tells us that you're trying to find the sweet spot between urgency to do something and the difficulty of the situation to maximize your overall performance. And if you know that you're intentionally waiting to get that adrenaline rush, you're probably telling yourself that you like the difficulty of the situation brought on by the urgency, and that you feel like you can work under those conditions optimally. As the Stock-Sanford corollary to Parkinson's law postulates, if you wait until the last minute, then it only takes a minute to do it. And look, I get it, some people don't like pressure at all. They just can't work under it, their mind just goes blank. But even if that's you, the fact that you made it this far into the video means that you have an open mind and you want to understand that active procrastination doesn't make someone a bum, and it could actually save them some time if they're using it right. Moreover, you can now probably recognize the signs of passive procrastination too, which is trying to avoid something because it causes you pain or anxiety. And, as we already talked about, passive procrastination is a good thing to avoid since this pain then leads to the shame cycle of procrastination. Finally, you could also be wondering, isn't active procrastination only helping people with good self-control already? And to go a step further, you could have Googled and found a study that concluded that feelings of high psychological well-being in students predicted the use of active procrastination, while low psychological well-being predicted the use of passive procrastination. My response to this observation is, at the end of it all, knowing why you're procrastinating is the first and most important step to actively procrastinating. After all, if you know why, then you also have a better chance of putting intention behind your decision to procrastinate and avoiding the danger of passive procrastinating because of stress. Of course, I also have to recognize that calling the shots is a good and bad thing. You could mess up your timing and force yourself into a bad situation. However, all that takes is practice. Learning how you work and how much time you need to effectively set deadlines is a key skill, and it's something that you can only develop if you give yourself room to fail. There's also no need to only take the negative route. You could also give yourself some much needed slack by not demonizing something that could actually be helpful to you. It's all about how you use it. Of course, active procrastination, especially at first, is easier said than done. I'm not gonna pretend like I do it all the time or that it comes automatically. A lot of people want to think they're one life hack away from fixing all their problems, but the reality is things take time. And that's okay. I mean, waiting is kind of the name of the game when it comes to procrastination. If you take away anything from this video, realize that not all delay is dysfunction. Good procrastination is all about intention. If you know how and when to use it, active procrastination may just end up being the most powerful tool in your time management kit. So let me know, did I make the case? And thanks for listening.